Ever looked up at the sky and seen a plane streak by? Today, flying is pretty common, almost like taking a bus. But what if I told you there was a time when flying was the peak of glamour, an exclusive experience reserved for the rich and famous? A time when an airline wasn't just a way to get from A to B, but a symbol of American power and prestige. That airline was Pan American World Airways, better known as Pan Am. For decades, its iconic blue globe logo was recognized worldwide, a promise of adventure and luxury. From pioneering transoceanic flights to serving presidents and movie stars, Pan Am defined the golden age of air travel. But like all great empires, it eventually fell. So, how did this aviation giant, which once seemed untouchable, simply disappear from our skies? Buckle up, because we're about to take a journey through the turbulent history of Pan Am, exploring its dazzling rise and its devastating fall. It all started in 1927, not with a glamorous passenger jet, but with a humble mail service between Key West, Florida, and Havana, Cuba. The man behind the vision was Juan Trippe, a former Navy pilot with an ambition as vast as the oceans he wanted to cross. Trippe was a genius, a master negotiator, and a relentless innovator. He quickly realized that the future wasn't just in mail, but in people. He secured exclusive landing rights and mail contracts across Latin America, effectively building a monopoly. Pan Am became America's chosen instrument for international air travel, a quasi-governmental airline that carried the nation's flag to the farthest corners of the earth. In the 1930s, Pan Am introduced its legendary Clippers. These weren't just planes. They were flying boats, massive seaplanes that could land on water. Journeys on these magnificent machines were the stuff of dreams. Imagine crossing the Pacific in a multi-day adventure, stopping at exotic islands like Hawaii, Midway, and Guam. On board, passengers weren't crammed into tiny seats. They were treated to formal dining rooms with white tablecloths, sleeping berths with silk sheets, and lounges where they could socialize. This was five-star hotel service at 30,000 feet. The crew, from the captain to the cabin attendants, were the best of the best, trained to deliver impeccable service. Pan Am stewardesses, in their iconic tailored uniforms, became symbols of elegance and sophistication. They were required to be college graduates, fluent in multiple languages, and trained in everything from first aid to mixing the perfect cocktail. The post-World War II era ushered in the jet age, and Pan Am was right at the forefront. In 1958, Juan Trippe once again revolutionized air travel by introducing the Boeing 707, America's first commercial jetliner. A flight from New York to Paris, which once took over 15 hours with multiple stops, could now be done in under 7 hours. This wasn't just an improvement, it was a complete paradigm shift. The world suddenly felt smaller, more accessible. Pan Am's network expanded rapidly, connecting all continents except Antarctica. Its slogan, "The world's most experienced airline," wasn't just marketing, it was a fact. They were flying everywhere. The pinnacle of Pan Am's dominance came in 1966, when Trippe placed a monumental order for 25 Boeing 747s, the jumbo jet. This was a massive gamble. The 747 was more than double the size of any existing plane, and many in the industry thought it would bankrupt the airline. But Trippe envisioned a future of mass air travel, making flying affordable for the middle class. When the first 747 took flight in 1970, it was a spectacle. With its spiral staircase and upper deck lounge, it was a true queen of the skies. For a short while, it seemed Pan Am's gamble had paid off. The airline was more than just a company. It was a cultural icon, immortalized in films like 2001, A Space Odyssey, where it was depicted flying to the moon. But the seeds of Pan Am's destruction were sown at the height of its success. The 1973 oil crisis was the first major blow. Fuel prices skyrocketed, and those massive, gas-guzzling 747s suddenly became incredibly expensive to operate. The global economy slumped, and demand for air travel plummeted. The jumbo jets that were supposed to be filled with passengers were flying half empty. This was a massive financial drain. At the same time, the regulatory landscape was changing. The Airline Deregulation Act of 1978 in the US opened the floodgates of competition. For decades, Pan Am had operated with the protection of the government, facing little competition on its international routes. Now, it had to fight tooth and nail against nimble, low-cost carriers. Crucially, Pan Am had a major strategic weakness. It had no domestic routes. It could fly you from New York to London, but not from New York to Chicago. This was a huge disadvantage. Other airlines could feed passengers from their domestic networks onto their international flights. To fix this, Pan Am made a fateful decision in 1980. It acquired National Airlines to gain a domestic network. But the merger was a disaster. The corporate cultures clashed, the fleets were incompatible, and the integration costs were staggering. Instead of solving its problems, the acquisition just added a mountain of debt. Throughout the 1980s, Pan Am was in a state of perpetual crisis. It began selling off its most valuable assets just to stay afloat. In 1985, it sold its entire Pacific division, the very routes pioneered by its famous Clippers, to United Airlines. It was like amputating a limb to save the body. The following year, it sold the iconic Pan Am building in New York City. The blue globe that had dominated the Manhattan skyline was fading. Then came the final, tragic blow. On December 23, 1988, Pan Am Flight 103 was flying from London to New York. As it flew over the small town of Lockerbie, Scotland, a bomb hidden in a suitcase detonated, destroying the Boeing 747 and killing all 259 people on board, plus 11 people on the ground. This horrific act of terrorism was devastating. It shattered public confidence in the airline. Passengers, fearing for their safety, abandoned Pan Am in droves. For an airline already teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, the financial and reputational damage was insurmountable. The Gulf War in 1991 was the last nail in the coffin. The renewed fear of terrorism and a spike in fuel prices was more than the crippled airline could handle. After years of struggling and losing billions of dollars, Pan Am officially ceased operations on December 4, 1991. The last flight, Flight 436 from Barbados to Miami, landed, and an employee famously announced over the radio, "Pan Am is now arriving for the final time." It was a somber end to a 64-year journey. The world's most experienced airline was no more. The story of Pan Am is a powerful lesson. It's a tale of bold ambition and brilliant innovation, but also of arrogance and an inability to adapt. Pan Am built the modern world of air travel, connecting continents and cultures like never before. It showed us that flying could be glamorous, an experience to be savoured, but it failed to see that the world it helped create was changing. It was outmaneuvered by deregulation, crippled by economic crises, and ultimately brought down by a brutal act of terror. Today, all that's left of Pan Am are memories, vintage memorabilia, and a legacy that continues to fascinate us. It reminds us of a time when the journey was just as important as the destination, and when a single airline logo could represent the entire American dream. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through aviation history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories like this. See you in the next video.